Hey, what's going on, YouTube? Hey, with the new token recovery system, a number of people have asked me, hey, what should I invest in and what should I break down to invest in those heroes? So I got a little time on the weekend here and I thought I'd do a quick tier list breaking down what I think are the best investment among the G1 through G3 heroes, right? Using tier maker here, obviously, and I think you understand the general concept here, but I just want to break down where I have these tiers here. Right, S tier, this is pretty straightforward. These are the heroes that I think are not only strong now, but are going to be strong going forward. Invest in them. If you have to break down other heroes to do it, that's what you want to invest in, right? The next level down, solid contributors. These are guys I think are going to remain in the meta for a while, but that I'm not sure that I would recommend cannibalizing other heroes that you're going to use. Just to invest in these guys, right? S tier, I would say like, hey, max these guys out kind of no matter what. The solid contributors, think about it. If you have leftover tokens, sure, but don't be breaking down a hero you would otherwise use. Okay, filling the ranks. These are kind of heroes that I think aren't that powerful, but we still need them, right? Maybe you're sending out five cav marches or five, archers, mages, whatever. There's only so many heroes that can fill those roles, and some of the heroes that among the 10 cav heroes you send out, for example, might not be the strongest, but they're good enough. So these guys are like I wouldn't recommend investing in them because they're gonna be obsolete at some point in the near future. But at the same time, don't break them down now unless you never use them because I do think they have a place in the meta. Okay, just hanging on. These are sort of like some of your niche cases, heroes that are just clinging on, or maybe have a specific role that means like, hey, I don't think you should break these guys down, but certainly don't invest in them. And as we go through here, you'll see what I mean as I go through some of the examples. And of course, the bottom tier here, their time has come. Like these are the heroes that I think you want to cannibalize to help out your other G1 through G3 heroes, right? So I have all the eligible heroes down here, and you'll notice there are three heroes not present. Lily and Hosk, right? Because you get those from the VIP packages. You can't break those down. You can't invest in them. You have to. The only way to do that is, through getting those VIP packages. And of course, Indus, who you get through your Dragon Trails, is also not eligible either to be broken down or invested in with this method. Okay, and we'll start with the infantry heroes, and we'll start with Nika here. I actually think Nika is the weakest legendary hero in the game. She's in the trash tier. Their time has come. There are two niche use cases for Nika. First, if in the Crucible event that starts out every season, like Nika actually is a pretty good hero to lead, like a Nika Kuma march, regardless of the type, because she has the PvE peacekeeping tree, and she does, she puts the bruise effect on the enemy. Okay, that's nice. That's not enough to justify her continued, investment in if you need the tokens, break her down. The other niche use case for Nika is that she can be part of the Skogul race car march because she does give 10% movement speed to infantry units. I mean, but there are plenty of ways to get that movement speed. So, Nika, I'm sorry. I actually think you're the weakest hero in the game. Let's break her down if we need it. Okay, the other G1 infantry hero is Garwood. Kind of the same thing, although I'll put him above Nika. Really, Garwood is your tankiest hero, but does no damage whatsoever. The one limited niche use case is like for Roots of War, if you just want something to hold a tree and stay alive. Oh, Garwood's okay at that. But that's pretty niche. And if you're breaking down heroes, you're probably not at that level of Roots of War anyway. So yeah, his time has come. Okay, then we got the G2 infantry. Skogul. Remember when Gorsh Skogul were like the answer to everything? That time has passed. I think Skogul is kind of hanging on though. She does have the race car use where she can go really fast, and for infantry, particularly if you want like an infantry unit escorting your cav marches, Skogul's pretty good for that. Okay. Sometimes I send her out with like if I'm sending out 5 infantry, Skogul might make the cut there, but otherwise she's pretty weak. Her G2 partner Gorsh is stronger, but his day has passed as well. I kind of have him in filling the ranks. He has a couple interesting cases like counterattack cav. I see that a lot. Okay. And then if I'm sending out a lot of infantry units, he is sort of like the fourth pair I send out. That's not amazing, but like he's still usable. So I would not break him down if you have him built out. Okay, then we have the G3 infantry heroes. I think they're sort of on the same par as Gorsh. They're certainly inferior to the later infantry heroes, but they're still like, if you're sending out a lot of infantry, you're going to send out Danfil. You're going to send on Magro. And I actually think Magro I would put slightly higher because at least he has a garrison use in certain certain circumstances if you don't have a better garrison. These guards aren't great. I would not be looking to invest in them at this time, but I also wouldn't be breaking them down this time. Okay, let's turn to the mages, and our first mage here is Valen. I have him just hanging on, although I'll put him ahead of Skogel here. Valen's just about to get cut from even my 5 mage lineups. I don't think he's not that amazing. Now, he does some AoE, so okay. In certain circumstances, I guess he's still okay. But I think he is sort of the mage that I'm most likely to cut right now. He's not on my bench, but he's like looking at it with, terrified eyes. So if you want to break down Valen, that's fine. But if you're using like 5 mage marches, maybe you still have him in your lineup. Okay, Bert, I think, is a bit better. I have him in the filling the ranks role and probably towards the top here. He does good single target damage, and I found him to be the best pair for the new legendary Saluna marches. In part because he flies, and so in the seasons when you need those marches to fly to unlock Saluna, I think he is the best pair. But I also think their kits work well together, right? He synergizes with single target damage. And here's the other thing, right? He flies. If you're like a League of Order player and you want to put forward some Celestial, marches, if you want to put 3 Celestial marches out there, he's got to be part of that. And so that like important role keeps him sort of, at least has a niche role in the meta. He's not going away anytime soon. All right. By comparison, I think his G2 running petty is kind of just hanging on, although I do have him sort of the top of this tier. I've seen some people still use him in like a city garrison. I mean, that's all right. He's cut from my mage lineups. Even when I send out 5 mages, I don't use him anymore. Tohar, not great. Okay. And the G3 mages, I was always disappointed with them, in particular Athalia, Goat Girl here. She has a use in the meta right now. If you pair her with Young Ming, she actually works pretty well. But let me tell you the secret here. Pretty much anyone works with Young Ming. So if you have some tokens invested in her and you're looking for additional tokens, I think you can get them from Thalia, and that's just fine here. I have her just hanging on. In fact, I'll even put her below Tohar, because Tohar can at least be a garrison, whereas Thalia, there are better mage rallies now. I don't think she's good. Works with Young Ming, but everyone works with Young Ming. By comparison, Thunderlin, I think, is pretty good. I have her as a solid contributor. One of the great things about Thunderlin is when she gets her rage skill off, she puts a debuff on the target that increases mage damage on the target and also makes it so that target can't go into cities, it can't go into rallies, can't go into bastions. And so she is a pretty important fight. When you're fighting around a rally bastion fight, she is very important for that. And even beyond that, she is just good with mage marches. Now, she's not amazing, so I don't have her S tier, but I think she is a solid contributor, and I don't think she's going away anytime soon. Okay. When it comes to the archer marches, sort of the G1 and G2 archer marches are pretty similar. I have them all just hanging on. And in fact, I won't, hide the ball here. I think all the G1 and G2 archers are pretty similar in that their damage output's pretty comparable. Now the G2 archers do a little bit more than the G1 archers, but the G1 archers are a little bit more counterattack focused. So breaking them down between them, I have Kanara as sort of towards the top here because she does have a good counterattack build. She can work with Husk, so I think she is better than the others. I have Nico a bit lower. I'll put him, in between Thalia and Tohar here. Sindrian, he does the most damage of these, and he is pretty good for city hopping, so I have him hanging on at the top of this. And then actually Freygar here is the king of the hanging on G2 archers, and the reason for that is she flies, okay? And that's not amazing, but if you're trying to build flying marches, there's only so many flyers, and for example, with flying cav marches, she is a core component of a flying cav, march, so yeah, okay, that's I guess she's hanging on better than the others. But the G1 to G2 archers, just not really impressed with all of them. And if you're not a strong archer player, if you don't have a lot of archer marches you're sending out, I think you can cannibalize any of those to help your other marches. Okay. By comparison to the G3 archers are still awesome. They're both S tier. In fact, these two, they're basically the same hero, Mag Zay. They should always go together. And one's not really better than the other. I guess I would say Mag is a little bit better than Zeta, but I mean, both, if you can, I would awaken both of these. Basically, everyone should awaken both of these. And part of the reason is not only are they great archers, they're actually very good mages. And if you're looking to build out your mage march, this is a pretty economical way to do it, right? You awaken both of these. Great archers, very good mages, and like I've seen people use them with Cav. They're not really great with Cav, but they can work. Okay. Speaking of Cav, let's talk about the G1 Cav. Emrys, I think, is a he's I guess I have him filling the ranks or maybe a solid contributor towards the top here. The great thing about Emrys for me, Cav, it's really important that movement speed for Cav be very high, right? The number one thing I focus on when setting up any of my Cav marches is making sure the movement speed is good, and Emrys can get very good movement speed all by himself. Not only does he have a skill that gives him 10% movement speed, but he has the mobility tree, as well as some other skills that allow me, basically to balance out my Cav marches, and Emrys is key to that, right? And that's really the difference between him and Bakshi, because Bakshi, he's okay, but he doesn't have any like sort of movement speed talents. And for me, that's not great. Bakshi is cut for me. Honestly, I have him in the their time has come bucket because he's out of my 5 Cav marches, right? Now I see, maybe you have him like a little bit higher, but I think if you're looking to cannibalize some tokens, and you can probably afford to bench Bakshi, all right? The G2 Cav, we start with Theo. I'm not impressed with Theo. Theo has the garrison tree, but I don't think you want him as your garrison. He has a decent bruise debuff, but the rest of his kit is just unimpressive. Now, if you are 5 marching Cav, he's okay. I still have him in my Cav marches, and he does give a movement speed boost with his skills. So you can have him as the deputy if you need to balance things out. So I have him on the just hanging on tier, but and like sort of top of the just hanging on tier. But for a G2 Cav, that's pretty unimpressive. I think Frondel's much better. I have him in filling the ranks, and I have him towards the top ahead of Emrys. Much like Emrys, he can answer the movement speed challenge that Cav have all by himself. And on top of that, like if you're playing flying Cav, he is your best flying Cav hero. He does pretty good damage. His war pet, the Berserk Phage Drake, that he powers all by himself, is still decent. So, he's part of my 5 Cav marches. Like, he's not in danger of being cut, but he's not one of the stronger Cav marches I have in the moment. Okay, the G3 Cav, Tobin's okay. He's filling the ranks. I'll have him slightly above Frondel here. The one thing about Tobin is Tobin doesn't have any movement speed skills, and his tree isn't great for movement speed, so he's not amazing in terms of that, but his skill kit, like is pretty good. And if you can get away with the movement speed with him, the rest of the skills are decent. They're not like G4, G5 Cav strong, but they're good enough. So I have him fill in the ranks. Okay, our other G3 Cav is Urag. He's awesome. He's really sort of a watershed moment in Cav. He is so much stronger than all the Cav that came before him. He has a movement speed skill, so that's good. His main tree, it's hard to get him up to the movement speed you need, so I tend to find that I need to put a deputy with at least 10% movement speed with him. Everything else about him is great. He does a ton of skill damage. It's AoE damage. The Wolf Howl Horn is arguably the best Cav artifact even to the day. I think Urag is S tier. I think everyone should awaken Urag, and you don't have to necessarily pair him with Tobin, right? So I have him paired with a movement speed hero. But even if you're not a Cav player, someone in your alliance is a Cav player, and those army groups, they're looking for donations. So put Urag, whoever, in the army group reserve legions, and your alliance will thank you for it. Okay, next we got Mu. Mu's also on the S tier. She works with basically anything. Don't love her with infantry, but anything other than infantry is great. I have her with my mages. I tried her with my Cavs. It worked great with my Cavs too. Now I stopped doing that because her stamina became an issue for me, but works great with mages, works great with Cavs. I see her, people playing her with archers. That's great too. So not only is she a strong hero, but she's very versatile. And if you're like an economical player, a free-to-play player, a low spender, Mu's great because you can cannibalize these other things, awaken her, and use her with a lot of marches. So strongly recommended, okay? Okay, so our other generic hero down here is Thea. I think Thea's very strong, or I have her in their solid contributor level. She works with everything. I have Mu and Thea paired together, and that works great. I see a lot of people using Lilia and Thea. That also works very strong. But if you're not like a mage player, she'll work with any of your units, right? And here's the other thing, of course, right? She flies. And so like any flying composition is going to include her, and every part of her kit works with every flyer, right? That's very strong. Now, the thing about her kit is like she gives shields, she gives a little additional skill damage. Like all that's fine. It's not amazing. It's not on par with sort of the later heroes. So like, would I recommend you awaken Urag or Thea first? Well, it's Urag, right? But Thea is very strong, even for a G1 hero. I have her on the solid contributor level. Okay. Next, we got Madeline. Interesting about Madeline is she used to be characterized as an infantry hero, and then they changed her to overall. I think because they wanted to keep the pattern of like two legendary heroes of each unit type for each generation. And right, and when she was an infantry hero, there were three Generation 1 legendary infantry heroes, so I guess that's why they changed it. Interesting reason or whatever. Honestly, I'm not very impressed with Madeline these days. Her kit, shields, does a little bit of damage, extra unit space. Not that good. She is overall, she can work with most any physical unit. She's not good with mages, but any physical unit can theoretically use her, but not that impressed. I have her just kind of hanging on, and actually towards the bottom of the just hanging on tier. All right, and the last one we got is Bayhorn. This is sort of like our, before we had Seluna, we had Bayhorn, the new flying legendary hero. Bayhorn's not great. The only thing I would use Bayhorn for is if you have flyers and you want to build out like multiple flying marches. Bayhorn's going to work with that. He's going to work with anything. But you're going to find that he's sort of like underwhelming regardless of what type of flying composition you have, right? So you got flying mages. Bayhorn's fine, but he's not great. Flying cav, kind of the same deal, all right? And it's because like flying is the only thing that like works for him. I have him on the just hanging on tier, but here's the thing, right? Because he works with any flying march, flying archers aren't really a thing, but flying mages and flying cav use him. So, okay, he's just hanging on, but I'll give him sort of the top of the just hanging on tier. All right, and so this is where I have the G1 through G3 heroes, obviously minus the heroes that aren't eligible for this in terms of breaking things down and where I think you should invest your tokens. Magze still super strong. Urag's great. Everyone should awaken Urag. And, Moo's super versatile. We got a couple solid contributors here. We got some people that I don't think are being cut, but I'm not that impressed anymore. And a lot of the earlier heroes are sort of like, they're clinging to the meta, or maybe they're already out of the meta and their time has come. All right, anyway, that's all I got for you today. And until next time, you stay classy, Belron.